everyone, and welcome to Our Voices. I am Simani Shekoye, and I'm joined by my co-hosts Orian Itangshaka and Amina Aliyu. Today we'll be talking about the often challenge rural women continue to face in sub-Saharan Africa, and that is obstetric fistula. Hello, ladies.
Hello. I'm so happy we're talking about this today.
Yes, because, obstetric fistula used to be a common problem for the entire world, but, with advancement of modern gynecological care, it was eradicated from developed nations. But sadly, it continues to cause, unbearable misery for women in developing countries. Like, for example, I was reading a data for Ethiopia, and 9,000 women get obstetric fistula every year. So let me ask you, how is it like in your respective regions, Orion?
You are very precise when you say it was a disease that was everybody's problem, but now it's no longer everybody's problem. It's a neglected disease because of that particular fact, because, they just think that it disappeared, but it did in many countries in Africa, including in Burundi, where about between 1,000 to 2,000 women have that particular condition. It's actually called the backyard disease because it's just the woman stays in the backyard. She's not needed in the front.
Because she's shunned away from
society. She needs to stay in the backyard because she's not hygienically proper to be amongst everybody else. So I'm so happy we're talking about this because in our region, we still need to continue the conversation. It's a disease that needs to be really taken care of. Not enough surgeons, not enough centers. It's just, it needs as much attention as possible.
Most certainly. My sentiments are similar to that of Orion. While I was doing a bit of research for the show, I realized that in Nigeria, the prevalence of obstetric fistula is estimated to be 3.2 per 100 births, which is one is too many.
That is a lot.
Right? But then on the positive side, I was reading up on a lady who was a fistula survivor. First of all, I was shocked to find out that it's something that you could get after a first birth.
Yes.
I assumed, my initial assumption was that it was something that could happen only from your first child because the waist is too narrow.
Right.
So the causes alone are something that really shocked me. But it was uplifting to see that there is a cure for it, and it also shone some light on my own ignorance about what fistula is. So before we go further into the show, let's first understand what exactly fistula is and how this devastating injury is created. Please be advised that today's topic may not be appropriate for young children and may be graphic in nature.
Fistula is an abnormal connection between two body parts, such as an organ or blood vessel. It can develop in any part of the body. However, the most common fistula in women is the one that occurs between the bladder and vagina, and it's referred to as female genital fistula. In general, the cause for female genital fistula can be categorized as obstetric and non-obstetric. Obstetric fistula is one of the most serious and tragic childbirth injuries. Even though labor is a natural process, many women still need assistance during their delivery. But if a woman has a prolonged labor and does not have access to timely medical treatment, obstetric fistula could occur. This is a hole that is created between the birth canal and bladder, birth canal and rectum, or both. It's characterized by continuous leakage of urine and/or feces, depending on which system is affected. Obstetric fistula can also occur due to other injuries during delivery, such as ruptured uterus in surgical delivery. Other non-obstetric causes to female genital fistula include early marriage, where sex during childhood causes genital fistula, rape, female genital cutting, pelvic surgical procedure, radiation, or infection. I believe this gives us a general idea of what fistula is, and it's a learning curve. We always learn going through it. So obstetric fistula is one of the most serious and dangerous injuries pregnant women go through during childbirth. Although it's completely preventable, lack of obstetric services in developing countries subject women to live in a state of distress and in fear of their future. According to the World Health Organization, more than 2 million young women live with untreated obstetric fistula in Asia and sub-Saharan Africa, leaving them with chronic medical problems, depression, and social isolation. Furthermore, as they are shunned by their families and communities, women with fistula are often poor, marginalized, and have limited option for treatment. On this week's episode of Our Voices, we will explore the causes of fistula and its impact on the physical, social, and mental well-being of women. We also have invited experts to discuss prevention as well as reintegration of women back into their community.
That's right. Well, 6% of all maternal deaths around the world are caused by obstetric fistula, according to the World Health Organization. That's when a baby can move. That's when a baby can move through the birth canal. This can also lead to obstetric fistula, a condition that can have a long-term impact on women's health, especially in developing countries like Tanzania. Owusu has more on this story from Dar es Salaam, Tanzania.
Christina James, a resident of Kahama in the Shinyanga region of northwestern Tanzania, traveled for more than 900 kilometers to CCBRT Hospital in Dar es Salaam in search of fistula treatment. Obstetric fistula, caused by prolonged and obstructed childbirth labor, has a devastating impact on women. The injury, which causes a person to lose control over bladder and bowel movements, can lead to further complications if not treated. James says she struggled with fistula for more than 2 years before she received surgical treatment.
I delivered the baby naturally and I was supposed to get stitches at the hospital, but after getting the stitches, they ripped off. I was sent to the hospital, but I already had a fungus infection.
Despite seeking help, James says her medical woes did not end until this year when she arrived at CCBRT Hospital.
I'm asking for anyone who has a child to look at them carefully and send them to the hospital when she feels pain. We shouldn't leave to people who don't know. They cause us a lot of problems.
The memories of her healing journey, she says, are painful. She was socially isolated and laughed at, and found herself unable to work because of the shame associated with her injury. She wants to change this situation for others. Doctors in the country also want to encourage women to understand the condition and seek help. Daniel Michael, a surgeon at a hospital where James is getting treatment, says the community also needs to support women.
We are asking if we can help these women in a timely manner because the biggest problem of fistula occurs during labor pain. These patients are ignored, so we are asking at the hospital level, patients shouldn't be in a long extended period of time of labor pain. And if the hospital can't help them on time, they should refer them as quickly as possible.
Every year, according to World Health Organization, between 50 and 100,000 women are affected by obstetric fistula, which can be treated usually through surgery. For Idi Wesu in Dar es Salaam, Tanzania, Omari Kaseko, VOA News.
Thank you so much, Idi Wesu, for that story, and Omari also for reading that story. A quick correction, 6% of all maternal deaths around the world are caused by obstructed labor.
That is right. Now let's meet a survivor of obstetric fistula, Sharon Korir. Sharon was diagnosed with fistula after the birth of her second child when she started uncontrollably leaking both feces and urine. Sharon says what she went through was a traumatic journey that stole her dignity as a woman, but she overcame. A mother of two and a lawyer by profession, Sharon is now an ambassador of Women with Fistula and runs Save a Woman Fistula Foundation. Sharon is joining us via Skype from Nairobi, Kenya. Thank you so much, Sharon, for being with us today.
Wow, thank you so much for having me. It's a great pleasure to be here.
Thank you. So let's start by how you actually got an obstetric fistula. Was it a traumatic experience?
I got fistula in 2017 after the delivery of my baby. And sadly, I actually gave birth in a hospital, one of the high-end hospitals here in Nairobi. For sure, it was devastating. It was one of those experiences that you wouldn't even wish to have it on anybody. Because immediately I realized that I cannot be able to control urine and feces. And I also was having feces from my vagina. It was hard.
Wow.
It was one of the most difficult moments of my life, yes.
So how much did this impact you personally, and did you experience any stigma?
Wow. I was, at that moment when you're smelling, that moment when you're licking urine and feces, you don't even want visitors in your house to come and see the baby. I found myself isolated in my bedroom, alone, most often, and I became so temperamental at the time. I started sinking into depression, and before I realized I had serious low self-esteem.
Wow. Yeah. Wow, Sharon, what a wonderful cause to be an ambassador for this particular disease that a lot of people don't really know about. Now, what is one thing that you would like people to really know about most of the time when you talk about obstetric fistula as an ambassador for it?
What I'd want people to know is that we need to normalize the condition the way we normalize other conditions. Any woman or girl that is leaking urine and feces is not necessarily dirty or unkempt. That person could just be suffering from fistula and just needs treatment, that is surgery and psychosocial support.
So, Sharon, I believe that is the reason why you started your foundation. So, tell us how it came to be, and also what kind of services do you give for other women who went through the similar experience, and like a community in general.
Yeah, after my experience with fistula, I got a lot of stigma from my husband. He went telling our friends, our family friends, that I'm smelling, I'm all urine and feces, and the bedroom is not a place to stay in anymore. And with that, of course, it was a hard time. I felt really bad. I was so down, bearing the fact that I didn't get support from him. And when I got the surgery and the psychosocial support at the time, I realized those needs to speak about fistula, those need to address the issues that women get. And yes, God gave me the burden to set up Save a Woman Fistula Foundation, purposely a safe space for women to talk about the condition, to share, a safe space where we can get hope that, after fistula there's still life, and you can get surgery and life can go back to normalcy.
So we're going to have to stop right there, Sharon. We would like to thank you so much, Sharon Corrier, a lawyer, a teacher, and founder of Save a Woman Fistula Foundation. Thank you for sharing your experience as obstetric fistula survivor and your work supporting women who go through a similar experience. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Now it's time for a break. When we return, we will meet Dr. Ambaye Walder-Mikil, obstetric and gynecology physician who has made significant contributions as a fistula surgeon. You can also share with us what you know about fistula and how women in your community survive and reintegrate back into their community. We are on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Our handle is at VOA Africa. Use the hashtag VOA Our Voices. We are also on WhatsApp, and our number is US country code +1 202 503 9025. We'll be right back.
Health, wellness, sport, beauty, medical breakthroughs. Healthy Living cares about your well-being. What are the main health concerns in Africa and around the world? Find out the latest on coronavirus. Connect with our experts and ask them questions.
How long does the virus stay?
Join me, Linoch Mudu, in Washington, every week on Healthy Living, right here on VOA.
Welcome back. You're watching Our Voices. We're discussing obstetric fistula and its far-reaching consequences on women's physical, psychological, and social well-being. To continue our conversation, we have another guest joining us via Skype from Addis Ababa, Ethiopia. Dr. Ambaye Wodel-Mikael is a leading fistula surgeon and has been treating women who are victims of obstetric fistula in Africa over the past 20 years. She is currently running the Hope for Light, a non-governmental organization that provides not only surgical treatment for obstetric fistula, but also gives the patients the mental support and health services, and also provides training on surgical skills for fistula repair and other care for professionals in Ethiopia. Dr. Ambaye, thank you so much for being with Our Voices today.
Thank you very much for having me.
By the way, for full disclosure, Dr. Ambaye Wodel-Mikael is my aunt, but with with almost 3 decades of experience in the field, she's one of the most qualified fistula surgeons. But before we start our discussion with Dr. Ambaye, let's hear from women on the continent about what they know about fistula. VOA reporter Kwame Adzaho Amenortar talked to Nimatu Yakubu, Ernestia Sriwa Asante, and Abigail Johnson Bwakaye in Ghana in Your Voice segment. Let's take a listen.
Fistula is a very unusual kind of thing, especially when you go and deliver. People assume that when you deliver, you should deliver safely without any complications. So when this complication comes, because they don't understand it, they feel it's a spiritual, and I know that most of the time, fistula is corrected by surgery. People do not like surgeries, and they feel it will worsen when they do surgeries. Some people in particular do not like surgery. So it's a challenge because you don't know, you are unable to treat it. People take things as spiritual things. That's one of the challenges we face in Ghana. When there's some abnormalities somewhere, they assume it is spiritual, so they don't seek the needed medical attention. So it has always been a challenge.
What I know about fistula is that it is caused by infection, inflammation, surgery, you name it. But then let me talk about vaginal fistula, in that it is when the vaginal tissue dies and then creating a hole between the vagina and the organs and digestive systems. You know, women tend to have problems treating this condition because of stigma. Yes, stigma because of the vaginal discharge, the bad odor, the chronic urine that comes with it. So they have this stigmatization in society, amongst their friends, their families, at work. And because of the bad smell, themselves, they are ashamed to even go in public.
So I don't know so much about vaginal fistula. I think I've heard of it. And with the little that I've heard about this disease, I think you can easily contract it from childbirth, or you can easily get it from childbirth. I mean, I learned that it's a hole that can be created inside your vagina. Like with another organ or something. I think that's the little that I read about it.
If there's education and people know that this can be treated, they will take a step to go on it. And also I think under the National Health Insurance, it should be under it, because I know it's not covered by the National Health Insurance. So I hope government would also make effort to put fistula treatment under the National Health Insurance so that everybody can afford it when they have fistula and get treated.
We need to raise awareness about fistula, in that it can be solved, it can be treated when you go to the health facilities. Also fear. Yes, some women fear that should they go to the health facility to treat their fistula, they might end up suffering maybe dire consequences of this condition.
I think it's all about awareness. I mean, if a lot of women know that woman you're avoiding right now, you could be in that same situation. And it's not their fault, because I mean, everyone gives birth. And it's not their fault for getting vaginal fistula from childbirth. So it's just kind of the form of awareness we create for people to understand that this is not their fault. It could happen to anybody. And then when you have it, you don't have to be ashamed of it. Try and find ways and means to get it cured or something. If there's more education, I think everyone gets an idea of what vaginal fistula is. Yeah.
Dr. Ambaye, let's come back to you. We just heard from women in Ghana about how much they know about fistula. Some know more, some know a little bit, some don't know about fistula. So how much people in Africa know about fistula?
Yeah, people in Africa, especially those who live in rural parts of the country, they know about obstetric fistula very well. But those who live in cities and developed countries, there is no existence of obstructed labor that causes the main cause of obstetric fistula, so they don't know about. But most of the people who knows about obstetric fistula are those who live in remote rural areas.
Dr. Ambaye, we know that fistula is treatable, yet there are so many fistula patients in sub-Saharan Africa. Why is it so difficult to prevent or treat obstetric fistula?
You know, we can see this in two parts. Why we are not able to treat them is there is only limited number of skilled surgeons to operate obstetric fistula. The patient, the victims, they don't get the treatment by going any health facilities because they have to go to a special center to get a fistula surgery or to get a fistula repair. So it's very difficult. Right. And the other way, it's most of the patients who are developed obstetric are from very poor economical background, so they are very poor. Even they don't have enough money to pay for their transportation. And even if they have money, they need someone to accompany them to take them to the health facilities area. And some, they don't know about that. It is a fistula is treatable. They don't know. They haven't heard about it. So usually they keep, it's like a taboo. So they keep it to themselves and stigmatized. You know, they are afraid of being stigmatization and they never talk about it to other people. So unless they disclose their problem, they don't get the treatment. That's why the problem is difficult to treat them. Why it is the prevention, what makes the prevention is difficult is it's poverty. To eradicate obstetric fistula, we have to eradicate poverty because the main problem, the underlying cause of obstetric fistula is poverty. So until, and then you know that the process for eradication fistula is a long process. So until we eradicate poverty, we have to educate women to know about that. Right. We have to, yeah.
Dr. Ambaye, I want to shift the focus on the governments because I understand it's also poverty as a cause. But we know also that one of the things that causes obstetric fistula is the delayed labor. And a lot of problems happen during that time. Could solutions be maybe having more clinics so that women don't have to travel far and have long delayed labor in order to eradicate some of these unnecessary fistula cases?
Yes, to eradicate, it's not only the Ministry of Health. There are, you know, it's different variables are involved in the problem of the cause of obstetric fistula. As the same token, it's different variables, stakeholders should be involved in the eradication of obstetric fistula. Like Ministry of Health. Ministry of Health should make the health facilities available and the skilled birth attendants should be there and supplies also should be there to give the service.
Right.
You know?
Is it because maybe the equipments are also expensive that the governments aren't wanting to invest in it? Could that be an issue?
Yeah, I mean the surgical sutures are very expensive. The materials that you use to operate, to do the procedure for obstetric fistula, it's not very cheap. So always you need support. Not only the medical supply, but we have to educate the community. Sometimes the people, they know that the services are available somewhere nearby, but they don't come because they don't want to be identified as a fistula patient. So we have to teach the community. So Ministry of Women Affairs who are dealing with women issues should be involved. They should teach, they should involve policymakers, and they should teach women, and they should teach the community that this problem is treatable and should be discussed, and there's nothing wrong about it to talk about in the openly. And Family Ministry of Education should be involved. They have to be able to educate girls. They have to make sure that girls go to school and they have equal chances to go to school to be educated. Family planning, family planning should be involved as well to delay the first childbirth in very young girls. And child spacing is very important in the development. So all these are risk factors to develop obstructed labor. So that if we prevent obstructed labor, we can prevent obstetric fistula.
That's very nice, Dr. Ambaye. So that's exactly what your organization, non-governmental organization, Hope of Light, does for a lot of women who go through this obstetric fistula. So in addition to the surgical treatment, what else does your organization provide?
Yeah, we usually victims of obstetric fistula, they don't come with urinary incontinence or fecal incontinence to the health facilities. More than the leakage of urine, they are suffering of the social stigmatization and the psychological problem. So to combat the psychological problem, we have a counseling program. We talk to the patient and we tell them that there is nothing wrong with them. It is only the failure of the system that causes fistula. So we teach them that it is treatable, and then we can cure them, and then they can be like any other girls. We have a counseling program. So with that counseling program, we involve it in group discussion or in one-to-one discussion, so that they can talk about the problem and share it with the other problem. In social problem, usually it's because when they develop obstructed labor, they will be abandoned with their husband, and these women, they go to their parents or their family houses. Even they are not welcome to go to the family houses because of their smell that happened as a result of continuous leakage of urine.
Thank you so much, Dr. Ambaye, for sharing your expertise on this subject. And
thank you very much, Todd.
Thank you so much. And that's our show for today. We'd like to thank Dr. Ambaye Walder-Mikael and Sharon Korir for being with us on the show and for sharing their expertise on this. We'll see you again next week with another exciting program. Be sure to continue the conversation on our social media platforms. Until then, thanks for watching.